Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
Man, I got to be completely honest and transparent with you guys. I do not feel great today. Trying to fix the camera here. Has nothing to do with the Lightning either. If you guys remember, and I was supposed to throw the first pitch out last June, I had to go to the hospital because I had a inflammation in my left knee, and I was in the hospital for 2 days. And yeah, it's back, and my left knee is in excruciating pain right now, and very swollen. Highly doubt, unless I feel tremendously better, that I'm going to be doing the podcast with Ian today. I'm going to power through it, doing the best I can. But yeah, it hurts just to move my leg just a little bit. So we're just going to do the best we can here on the program today. Obviously, plenty of Lightning talk. Eric Erlinson is going to join us at 1 o'clock as well. George Richards is going to join us from Florida Hockey Now at 1:30 to give us the Florida Panthers perspective, and then Greg Auman at 12:30 from Fox Sports, because the NFL Draft is tomorrow night. Pick number 19 for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if you see me kind of grimacing or whinging and things like that throughout the show, powering through it. But yeah, it's been rough. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe as well. Going to power through this broadcast today because of what happened last night, and I've got plenty to say. A swollen knee and a pained knee is not going to keep me away from the program today. So, again, I hope you guys appreciate me bearing through the pain here, and praying to Jobu that I will get better. But I'm probably going to go to urgent care or something right after this to take care of my knee, because this is something that just continuously happens every couple of months, and it's excruciating pain. So I'm going to do what I can today. I always want to hear from you as well. Today would be a very, very welcome video call day. So if you want to get in on the conversation, there is the link right there. The StreamYard link you can use on your phone. You can use on your computer, your laptop. Your thoughts on the Lightning 6-2 loss to the Florida Panthers yesterday. The Lightning, it's been a kind of a weird day for them today. They were supposed to practice at 12 o'clock, and now they're not practicing at 12 o'clock. And they were going to hear, the guys and gals over there were going to hear from select players as well as John Cooper. And then now, another update, 12:30, Cooper and some of the players are going to talk, and then there's an optional skate at 1 o'clock. I don't know. It's a fluid situation over there at Amalie today, but, man, of course, I want to hear from you. Questions, comments, concerns, feel free to put all of your answers there, whether you're posting a comment on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, or if you want to call. Again, here is the link, StreamYard.com/VS6 IMIAJMM. Just take that link, put it in your phone, put it on your laptop, and you can join in on the conversation. Your thoughts on the Tampa Bay Lightning 6-2 defeat at the hands of the Florida Panthers last night. So the other thing too, guys, is when you're looking at losses, they weren't the only team that lost last night. The Rays, unfortunately, took an L in Arizona against the Diamondbacks, and my God, it's not looking good for the Rays. It's not looking good for them at all. And appreciate you, Nick in Sarasota. Knees are the worst ice. I've been icing all morning long, my friend, and it does not feel very good. What else didn't feel good last night was watching that game at Amalie Arena. Again, I want to hear from you. Questions, comments, concerns. Give us a call. Let us know. But I'm going to tell you guys, here's my takeaway. This is where things went wrong last night. Everywhere. And I know a lot of people want to point to the hits and they want to point to the physicality. Like, that was part of it, but that wasn't the whole thing. I feel like we just, every single time the Lightning lose, everybody goes to the low-hanging fruit. And it's always physicality. All right. But if you heard from Paul Maurice last night, and he was asked the question, he goes, I didn't really think it was that physical of a game. I didn't either. I mean, Florida had some hits. The Lightning had some hits too. But I didn't look at that game and say, oh, wow, the Lightning, the number one reason why they lost was the physicality. I don't think so at all. I think it was defensively. I think it was them not being able to get pucks through. I mean, look at how many block shots the Florida Panthers had last night. It was 18-8. They did such a better job of doing work in front of the net, getting screens in front of Andrei Vasilevsky, and when they had an opportunity on the man advantage, they did work. 3 for 3. Going into the series, everybody was saying, myself included, that the Tampa Bay Lightning's defense and their PK was exponentially better than it was last season. That's why I had hope going into this series, because I thought the style of play that is successful in the postseason, that is what the Tampa Bay Lightning were focusing on in the regular season. We didn't see any of that in game one. None of it. So before you get into the physicality, the number of hits don't tell you the whole story. Because you know what happens when you out-hit a team? It means you probably didn't have the puck all that much. And that's what happened last night. I thought there were some things that the Lightning did well, but turnovers and costly mistakes by their big players. That is what I saw last night. And Shorstein, assuming no word on Cirelli yet, no. But I did see Anthony Cirelli last night. And this is the reason why you want to go and you want to cover these games. And some people will believe you can cover these teams without going to the games, and that's your prerogative. That's fine. But to be able to be in that locker room, to be able to walk into the locker room, walk out of the locker room, to be able to talk to these guys, and to be able to see what you see when you cover the game, it just gives you a leg up. That's why you're watching this podcast right here, and you're watching this show, because you're going to get information here that you're not going to get anywhere else. You're going to get the same old bullshit answer from everybody else. Oh, the physicality. Shut the hell up. It was more than the physicality. Pay attention to the game. Anthony Cirelli looked like a defeated man walking downstairs outside of the locker room. He looked like a guy that was not coming back this series. I'm not a doctor. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But he was shuffling his feet. He did not look healthy. And at times, you see guys downstairs after they leave the game, like we saw with Darren Radishek a couple weeks ago and Eric Chernak a couple weeks ago, and they're walking downstairs like nothing happened. Then you also see a guy like, or you don't see, somebody like Oliver Bjorkstrand. We haven't even seen this dude. If they don't want you to see a guy, they're going to keep him away from everybody. We haven't seen Ollie in a hot minute. That is concerning, to say the least. But I saw Anthony Cirelli last night wearing his hoodie with a slight limp, shuffling his feet. That does not bode well for him to be ready for tomorrow night. And if he doesn't play, the Lightning are in bigger trouble than they were last night. He didn't play all that great before he left the game last night. There was one guy that I see from that game that I go, wow. Wow. And even though the numbers may not back it up, this guy was a force all night long, and that was Jake Guentzel. Jake Guentzel was all over the place. He scored the first goal. This is a dude that was making the smart plays. Money well spent from Julien Brisebois. But I look at Ryan McDonagh on that first goal. You have to get a piece of that guy at the blue line. If you're going to step up, you got to get a piece of him. You don't get a piece, it's 2-on-1 the other way. Listen, Bennett made an incredible attempt at that puck in the air, batted out of the air, and Vasi couldn't make the save. 1-0, boom, in a blink of an eye. Hedman, mistake. Like, how are you going to win if McDonagh, Hedman, and Andrei Vasilevsky are making mistakes? You're not. You are not. Dave Velasquez saying, what's good, Jay? We got beaten every phase. Thank you, David. Thank you. Instead of saying the same old shit all the time, the physicality, they out-hit us, look at the number of hits. Look at every single facet of the game. That's where they got beat. I told you to keep an eye on Brad Marchand because you know what? He was a guy that I didn't think he was playing as fast as he has in years past. He was one of the best players on the ice last night. The Lightning couldn't touch him. Turn back the clock. He looked like the Brad Marchand from 10 years ago, playing on a line with Patrice Bergeron and David Pastrnak in Boston. He was fantastic last night. You can't tell me that a guy like that has more legs than a Braden Point, has more legs than a Nikita Kucherov, has more legs than an Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel and Yanni Gourde. There's so many things that I had problems with last night. A couple of things. Where do we start? Where do we start, for the love of God? It's so freaking mind-numbing and frustrating. All right, let's start with this. Number one, what have I been saying for the last 2 weeks? I've been saying that Yanni Gourde is not a guy that can play on the first line with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. And then halfway through the game last night, what happened? Gage Gonsalves was playing on the first line. I love Yanni. He is the man. He is such a great dude. He's not a first-line winger. He wasn't a first-line winger in Seattle. They didn't even make the playoffs. You're playing on a line with Point and Kucherov? Listen, there's so much blame to go around last night, and I know some people are going to say, calm down, it was just one game. Bullshit. You got smoked 6-2 at home. Where is the pride? Where is the urgency? This is on everybody. This is on Julian Brisebois. This is on John Cooper and the coaching staff. This is on the players. This is on everybody. They need to get their head out of their ass, or they're going to get swept out of this series. You thought it was bad last year, getting beaten 5. You play like you do last night, you're not coming back to Amalie after tomorrow night. Simple enough. That is a bad move. The other thing, I said it before the trade deadline, and they did nothing to address it. I can't tell you how many people said, well, I don't know about that third D pair. And the reason why they don't trust their third D pair, here's an example of how they don't trust their third D pair. They have 7 defensemen that they play. If you were satisfied with what your third D pair looked like, you would play 6 guys and you'd have more guys up front. Simple as that. Perbix, I thought early on showed some real calmness among the heat of fire, but then he made some mistakes. And Emil Lilleberg, listen, I know he's a physical presence. I know they love him on the left side. The turnovers from that kid last night, he froze. There was 2 plays in particular where he made a couple of moves to get around a guy, and then he just froze, and then the puck slid off his stick. It was like bubble hockey, and he just stood there frozen. Elsa's not coming to save you, Emil. You have to get your head out of your tuchus and play better, or this team is going to be sent home. Not good enough. I look at the best players. I thought Gonsalves played well. I didn't hate the way Geeky played. I thought Moser played well. I thought Gergensen's left it all out there. The 4 guys making their playoff debut last night, I thought were 4 of the best players for the Tampa Bay Lightning. What kind of sense is that? When you have Nate Schmidt, a third-pairing defenseman, scoring 2 goals. You have Barkov with 2 assists. You have Bennett playing as well as he did. Reinhart scores a goal. Matthew Tkachuk, he didn't look compromised at all, did he? He looked fantastic. He didn't look like he was banged up at all. I cannot believe that the Lightning got to a point. Listen, you're going to go down 2-1 in the first period. I didn't necessarily hate their game all that much. You don't want to give up goals at the end of the first. But what the hell was that second period? What was that? From everybody. Andrei Vasilevsky was not locked in. Rebound control, porous. You gave up 6 goals on 16 shots. Is it all your fault? No. But on other nights, Andrei Vasilevsky is a whole hell of a lot better than what we saw last night. John Cooper challenging that call for goalie interference was a huge, huge mistake. That reeked of desperation. That's not something you see from John Cooper very often. I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's Nigel. I don't know who the hell it is. But everybody gets blamed for that. Unfathomable, unbelievable, putrid, You have to have some kind of freaking pride to not crap the bed as bad as you did in that second period and to lose 6-2. And I know John Cooper said it last night. It's just one game. Doesn't matter if you lose 6-2 or you lose 1-0. Does it? I know it only counts for one, but honestly, going into game 2, what can you hang your hat on? I'm asking you guys, where's the positives from last night? Where? Give me a positive. Give me a guy. Give me a play. Give me a mode. Give me something. Here's the link. Have some balls. Get on the call right now. Comment. What did you see? I didn't see anything. Outside of what? Gensel? Gonsalves? Moser? Woof. Woof. You're making everybody look bad playing like that. You're making everybody that said that the Lightning are going to win this series, all of the experts, all the people here that were optimistic that things were going to be different. This didn't look like the team from the regular season. This looked like the team from last year. Listen, that's an insult to the team from last year. You look worse than you did last year. Horse crap. Horse crap. And the thing is, it's one thing, right? Like Lilleberg, okay? I didn't think he played very well at all. And I think we can all agree with that. But if you look at that game last night and you say, we lost because Lilleberg made a mistake and Geeky turned the puck over or Gonsalves didn't play all that well, you're going to be pissed. You're not going to be happy. But at least there's some semblance of it's a reason, not an excuse. You understand why that happened. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that. The worst players on the ice last night were the guys that get paid the most. I know Braden Point scored. I wasn't thrilled with his game at all last night. Yanni Gore didn't play well. Victor Hedman didn't play well. Ryan McDonough didn't play well. Andrei Vasilevsky didn't play well. And I want to talk about one guy that needs to pick it up more than anybody else. And I have vouched for him, even though. Let me be careful what I say here. One guy that needs to pick it up more than anybody else is Nikita Kucherov. Kuch, even though you're not overly friendly and loquacious with me and the rest of the members of the Tampa Bay media, that has nothing to do with this. Nothing. Nikita Kucherov, you won the Art Ross Trophy again for the most points in the league. You are not considered for the Hart Trophy year in, year out, which is complete bullshit. I honestly don't care about the regular season. I'm going to get back to Kuch in a second. I want to get this. We coasted in like we always do. The team always rests on their laurels. Great regular season, even though some games didn't feel that way. In 2019, getting our team. Lewis, come on, man. It's not that. It's not effort. It's not effort. There's no coasting in. It doesn't matter. That shit does not matter. It's totally different. You're not good enough. You didn't play well enough. It's not secret sauce. This isn't some random thing and then it's like, here, let's decipher this. Let's ask Jobu. Let's put something, let's add some order to it and see if we can find the right answer. It's not a lack of effort. They're trying. They're making stupid plays. They're not making smart plays that the Florida Panthers do. Smart and efficient play. That is what it's going to take for them to be able to get back into this series. I watch the entire game, and I don't watch I don't just follow the puck like the TV cameras do. I'm watching. They're giving it everything they have. Yanni Gore did not play well last night, but it wasn't for lack of effort. You look at that third line, especially early on in the game, Paul, Gonsalves, and Geeky, there were some good shifts there. There really was. And I remember leaning over to Corey Long and saying, that third line, They need to win that battle with the third line of the Florida Panthers, because the Cats' third line last year, that is what really did the Bolts in. It's not for a lack of effort, guys. It's not just physicality. The Lightning's best players need to get their head out of their ass. They need to remember who the hell they are. I have faith that Ryan McDonough is going to come back and play a better game. I think Victor Hedman will come back and play a better game. I think that for Andrei Vasilevskiy as well. But the one guy I want to challenge to take the bull by the horns and to lead this team to a Game 2 victory is number 86, Nikita Kucherov. Once again, you led the regular season in scoring. The key words are regular and season. You are one of the greatest players of this generation. You're a guy that scores goals. You're a guy that is an incredible playmaker. And you're a guy that has 2 Stanley Cups and a Conn Smythe on his resume. But with all that being said, Nikita Kucherov has as many goals as you and I in the last 11 playoff games. 0 in his last 11 playoff games. Not good enough. And when you make a bad pass in the zone, you can't put your head down. You can't tilt your head back. You can't just kind of go through the motions. Moody Cooch is not going to get it done. You joke around about Grumpy Cat and all these things. I want to see pissed off Nikita Kucherov. You want to get respect around the league? You want people to say that you're a no-doubt Hart Trophy candidate? This is the time you show up. McKinnon scores goals in the playoffs. McDavid scores goals in the playoffs. Matthew Tkachuk scores goals in the playoffs. You haven't scored 1 goal in the playoffs in 11 games. That is not good enough. The Lightning are not going to win this series. They're not going to win a freaking game unless Nikita Kucherov turns it up. You need to get into second gear. Forget about fifth. I need second gear, third gear. You got to play like your hair is on fire. I know Cooch is not all of a sudden going to turn into Yanni Gord. I know all of a sudden he's not going to turn into a McKinnon and McDavid and start skating a million miles an hour. But whatever you do that enables you to lead the regular season in scoring, that guy has to show up in Game 2. Steven Stamkos is not walking through that door. You have an A on your chest. You need to lead this team to victory. It's not going to be by your words. It's going to be by your play on the ice. That's what everybody tells us. That's why he has an A on his chest. Because of his work ethic. Because of what he's able to do on the ice. That's great. But this team doesn't have aspirations of just making the playoffs. This team has Stanley Cup aspirations. You brought Ryan McDonough back. You brought in J.J. Moser. You went out and signed Jake Gensel. Because you thought that bringing these guys in were not only going to help you 5-on-5, but better defensively, but also in the postseason when you got ran out of town last year in 5 games by the Florida Panthers. 86 better make his presence felt in Game 2. Because if he doesn't play better, I'm telling you right now, tomorrow night will be the last game at Amalie Arena for the entire season. Start booking your tee times, boys. Does he have it in him? Of course he has it in him. He's done it before. But this moping around, this melancholy attitude, like that's not going to work. That's not going to fly. And it is not just him. Your leaders have to lead from the front. Andrei Vasilevskiy needs to be a brick wall. Ryan McDonough, you are one of the best defensive defensemen in the game. You cannot play like that again. Victor Hedman, these long 165-foot passes. Bro, make the simple plays. Make the easy plays. Hit a guy right on his stick. I challenge the Lightning's best players. If you're going to go down, you better not go down like that. So when John Cooper says, what's the difference between a 1-0 loss in overtime and a 6-2 loss? That's what it is. That's what it is right there. It's that your best players didn't show up in game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs at home against the team that not only won the Stanley Cup last year, but knocked you out of the playoffs last year. And that's the effort that you give in the second period? Not enough. Not good enough. You're way better than that. Way better. Fix it. We are a skilled team going against a bigger team. We lack good decision-making and definitive puck control. Too many one and done. The best fight we had was after the first goal. That's right. But that, I get that. But everybody's saying, like, we're a skilled team. Like, all right, well, is Yanni Gourde a skill guy? Is Eric Chernak a skill guy? Like, Gensel's tough. Cirelli's tough. Hagel's tough. Like, we can't just say that we're a skilled team when you lose. It's not just that. Russ, what's up, buddy? Jay wasn't pretty. We need more fight, man. Hit him in the mouth. I just think it's smart. Kucherov is an amazing talent, but I'm sorry, maybe in the minor, but he's too wishy-washy at times and frankly just lacks discipline when he has the puck. I swear 3 times the turnovers. Yeah, I mean, and this is Zeal Daddy. They always say a team got goalie playing the Panthers some nights as they got Barkov in the playoffs. Barkov completely shuts down best players most nights, so you only win with depth. I mean, if you're good enough, you got to be able to win. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. It's a reason, but it's not an excuse. Fine. I understand what you're saying, right? You got Barkov. You know what that gets you? That gets you a tea time in 2 weeks in Plantation Palms. That's it. Oh, the other team is just better than us. Okay, fine. You weren't saying that in 2020 and 2021. It was, we're going to find a way. And you didn't. The other thing, looking at a guy like Luke Glendening, who's obviously not 100%, 5 of 12 in the faceoff dot last night, 41%. Braden Point, 7 of 18, 38%. Yanni Gourde, 2 of 6 for 33%. Dude, that's not going to work. Every single little thing that the Lightning had to do last night, they didn't do. They didn't do it. And again, it's not always that you lost, it's how you lost. Barkov was 14 of 18 last night on the faceoff dot. 77.8%. Anton Lundell was 6 of 10. Woof. Woof. The Bolts better pick it up because the leadership, I'm calling out the guys at the front. That's what it is to me. I can't be mad at what I saw from Geeky. I can't be mad at what I saw from any of the other guys that made their playoff debut. We were optimistic going into this series because of the guys at the front. The Vasilevskis, the Kucherovs, the Hedmans, and the McDonoughs. Those 4 guys, you better step it up. Because I don't want to hear any of this lip service stuff. We fall into the trap in sports when we talk about sports of, well, and I'm guilty of it too. Well, they know what it takes. They know what it takes to get there. Well, that team did, but it's a different team, different players. Again, I said Stamkos isn't walking through that door. Neither is Blake Coleman. Neither is Barclay Goodrow, right? Neither is Sergachev. All these guys, it takes a special group to be able to hoist the Stanley Cup. And you think about it. Think about this. Ryan McDonagh played poorly. Victor Hedman played poorly. And Nate Schmidt, the third pairing defenseman, scored 2 goals last night. 4 of our best players were an abomination last night. And their third pairing defenseman scores 2 goals. I understand when it comes to a series, and I understand when it comes to a coach, that you want to be even kill. You don't want to get too high. You don't want to get too low. I get that. But when the game hits, when the puck drops, there's got to be a sense of urgency. There's got to be something that you hang your hat on. And there was nothing that the Lightning did last night that gave me optimism or hope going into Game 2. And I'm looking squarely at the guys at the top the guys with the letters on their chest. If you don't pick it up, this team will not be back at Amalie Arena after tomorrow night. Mark my words. All right, let's flip the script. Let's talk about something that's a little bit more joyous, and that's the upcoming NFL draft. And we do it with our pal Greg Auman from Fox Sports. Greg, thanks for joining me, man. I just spoke 30 minutes. What's the opposite of glowingly? The opposite of glowingly about the Lightning last night. That was a rough putt.
I stopped watching. Yeah, it got 4-1. I was like, all right, I'm going to watch Andor. So, yeah, listen, tough night. It's one of those where, I mean, there are games where you can be down 3 goals and feel like there's a chance, and then last night didn't feel like one of those games.
Nah, I mean, when you get to the second intermission and I'm sitting there talking to Phil Esposito going, Phil, if I could go home right now, I would. And I've been through a lot. My 10 years here in the Bay Area, I've seen some bad losses. Those Buccaneer team pre-Brady, you were there. I remember being at Ray J one day where USF got blown out by ECU and then the Bucs got blown out by the Ravens. And it was something like Tampa teams got beat by teams wearing purple like 96-5 or something crazy like that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I just to some extent, I feel like local fans don't know how good they have it right now, in that things obviously have been a lot worse for some of the franchises here. To think about, again, Lightning, struggling in the first round of the playoffs. You don't want to see that again, but lots of years where we weren't in the playoffs. Lots of years where, again, Bucs weren't losing in the first round of the playoffs, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's all relative.
You got that right. I think it's pretty cool to see, the 50, they're celebrating all the 50 years. I was busting my buddy Ian's chops that he's one of the top 151 players of all time. But it seems like this is going to be a really celebratory year for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be neat to see that they talked about having a Legends Night in September where they're going to have a whole bunch of people all gathered together. Probably the biggest gathering of Bucs greats ever, which would be really neat. So to have the 50th season, it's really neat to think about. The balloting with fans getting to pick the top 50. You're already seeing fans posting their ballots. I think you have to put your first 25 on there. And it's not necessarily a consensus. There's definitely some who's the third linebacker, who's the second safety. There's good debates that'll go on with this. So no, it'd be neat. And it's a big number to hit in terms of 50 seasons. And it's one of those where they'll have the 50th season, and then in 26, I'm sure they'll celebrate the 50th anniversary. Kind of milk it for both. Saturday Night Live keeps doing the same thing. They're in their 50th too. So
right. Before we get to the Bucs, I want to ask you about this whole thing with Shedeur Sanders, and I know Tom Pelissero came out about it, and he's relaying information from assistant coaches talking about Shedeur Sanders, and our pal Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, he said something similar a couple weeks ago, and I know it's kind of funky because people are like, oh, it's because it's Deion's kid and blah blah blah, and people are trying to. I mean, Cam Newton got kicked out of Florida for stealing, laptops? And he was the number 1 overall pick. I mean, I think if the guy's good enough, regardless of what the baggage is, people are willing to kind of take it on if it's not too egregious. But this is just such a weird thing to me because it's not just one thing. And it's kind of strange to me how people forget, like, there's other people that have reported this over the last couple of weeks. What do you make of the reporting that he's difficult, the interview is bad, he's not that good of a player? Do you think something like that's a smokescreen, or does the habit of seeing so many people say stuff like this, maybe could there be smoke, smoke, could there be fire?
Yeah, the draft is weird because all it takes is one team to like you. So It's one of those where Shedeur could go 3 tomorrow night and go to the Giants at 3 and be where everybody kind of thought he would be. Or he could go 21 or not go 21 and be there's probably a wider range for him than anybody I can remember. I mean, you go back 2 years ago, like Will Levis, people were talking about being a number 1 pick or a top 3 pick, and he went in the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. So clearly the public perception, especially at quarterback, is so to extremes and high and low that you can be wrong like that. The entire public perception of somebody, I mean, nobody – you think about the extra attention that's given to a legacy, somebody who's the son of a prominent player. And Shedeur's had that for 4 years now, right? Mm-hmm. And has had success on his own, has turned 2 programs around, but that doesn't mean he's a consensus top 5 pick. So, in terms of attitude, in terms of some of the reporting about negative impressions that teams have gotten, it kind of feels like a vibe thing. And I think some of that, again, he might be carrying the weight of who his dad is, in that you want absolutely a confidence and an optimism in a player and a young player at a quarterback. But again, when it gets to cockiness, when it gets to there's another level that turns some people off. And Shador's probably at that level. So again, it's just going to be a vibe of how do you think that translates to him at 22 being able to lead a room of people older than him? Will he earn their respect in other ways to where no one's going to have to tell him, hey, man, maybe scale that back? He's used to being the biggest guy on his team, the most well-known person on his team who has his dad's back. Nobody in the locker room is going to question him. He won't have that in the NFL. So he's going to have to earn their respect on his own. I'm not saying he can't do that. He could very well be a guy whose approach at practice, in meetings, everything will win people over before he's ever taken a snap. But if it isn't, and you come in with that confidence, again, just like teams don't like that, there might be some teammates that don't like that. I don't know that that's the case there. He's absolutely the hardest one to peg in this draft class in terms of guys that, again, you're talking about teams trading up into the top 3, or you're talking about him free falling. And again, between, New Orleans people don't seem to think he's the guy at 9. And then you have that window from 10 to 20 where there's not really teams that need a quarterback. So then all we're talking about now is Giants and Browns and whether either of them would try and trade up to get ahead of Pittsburgh at 21. We all have probably presumed in this draft process that he's now the second quarterback. But what if Jackson Dart goes ahead of him? What if Milroe goes ahead of him? What about Tyler Shuck going to get ahead of him? I don't see those things happen. I think he'll be the second quarterback off the board. But he's made it a conversation here. How much of that is real and how much of that is sensationalized to get us through the long weeks to get to the draft? I don't know.
Do you think the Buccaneers have a better chance of trading up or trading down from 19?
Trading down. I would be impressed if they traded up. The idea, if there's a player, I mean, again, Jason Light did this with Wirfs, he's done this with other high picks where he has conviction and likes a guy and sees a guy within range. It's nothing for him to throw a 3 or a 4 to move up and get who he wants. Right. So I'll be curious if there's a player who's that elite in this class that falls to within range of 19, because 15's Atlanta, and Atlanta has a lot of the same needs at edge and linebacker, where probably have to get ahead of them if there's an obvious guy at those two positions. The corners that could fall, like Will Johnson could fall, but there's some real injury concerns there with him. So I don't see him trading up just because I don't think he has a ton of assets. I don't see him borrowing from the future. But we don't know. They definitely have some needs on defense, and if he thinks Jahad Campbell is a world beater and miles above the other linebacker options, they have to find a successor to Levante David. So maybe that creates an urgency that has them go up to 16 to Arizona or something like that. I don't think so. There's not a lot of teams that want to trade up right now. So it's right. Kind of like if you get to 19 and Campbell's already gone to Atlanta or Arizona, if the top 4 edges are off the board, if you're not sold on the corners that are there, they could certainly trade down, but you have to find a team. The best scenario for the Bucs trading down would be, again, if you have quarterbacks, whether Sanders or Dart, and somebody wants to get ahead of Pittsburgh at 21, Tampa Bay and Denver are at 19 and 20, and those are definitely two teams that would trade down if you get a nice haul. I don't think they're going to want to trade down that far, but if somebody will go up and give you a late second or a third, where you get a second, you get another top 100 guy, this seems like a draft where you would be able to take advantage of that. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between the 30th guy and the 100th guy. So if you can get one more guy that you like in that group, it's probably not a bad deal.
Greg, I saw you put something on Twitter the other day, or even yesterday or earlier today, about the Buccaneers selecting a certain player at a position how it's going to affect the current depth that they have, whether it's a Braswell or a Servassier Dennis or a Tyke Smith, because you see a lot of different things, whether it's a Campbell or whether it's a Ezeraku or Imewari or any of these guys. Which one are you concerned that it would hurt their development the most if they were to pick a guy at that spot?
Yeah, I mean, all these positions have entrenched veterans that could be gone in a year. So, like we talk about, if they took Ezeraku or if they took an edge, it does kind of make Braswell maybe your fourth, if not fifth
Right.
end this year, which isn't good for him. It doesn't really line him up with more playing time that would lead to his development. They took him in the second round last year, and they've spoken highly of him this spring. But again, if you think about, okay, well, Reddick might be gone after a year. There's probably a decent chance he's gone after a year. So that slides him up one. And then you'd have kind of a Diaby, Braswell, rookie as your top three, which isn't bad. That's the young rotation you'd want. Linebacker, again, I think linebacker, even if you were worried that drafting somebody, Jahad Campbell, in the first round, pushes Servacio Dennis down, a year from now, he might be starting because Levante's gone. So that's not there. Safety, a lot of people like safety, Malachi Stark, something like that. I think with safety, they're still not sure whether Tyke's a nickel or a safety. So if you put a first-round pick in a safety, you're going to start him, right? And that puts Tyke back at nickel, where he kind of played well. I think the idea in moving Tyke to safety was he played well. We want to make sure he's an every down player, not he didn't play well at nickel. He did really well. He's a playmaker. They like him. So drafting a safety would be to say we want to have all three. We're going to have Winfield, rookie, and Tyke as functional parts of that back end. All these things, you don't want to push somebody aside, right? Especially somebody young that you like, but it's okay to have kind of redundancy and have too much young talent at key positions. So, the Eagles didn't really need to add a defensive tackle, okay, when they already had, Jordan Davis and Milton Williams and others. But obviously them adding Jordan Davis and adding, getting younger with Jalen Carter was a big part of why they were a great defense. So I think you can overstack at the right positions, and it's okay because you need the depth. Whether they get hurt or whether you just want to hit them with waves and waves of talent, it's okay to have too much at some positions.
If they had their options, let's say they had a choice between their top pass rusher, linebacker, and corner on the board, and safety, which position do you think the Buccaneers would lean towards?
It's like we don't know who they love. We don't know who they like. Forget about position. We just love this guy, and it could be, again, you look at the Georgia guys. I feel like not just Tyke, but I mean Todd's son was at Georgia, so he knows these guys personally. He's been in rooms with them. He can know them at a much better level than any other school. So again, it's probably not Jalen Walker. It's probably not Michael Williams, but it could be Starks. It could be there's other options where they could go to that defense and get things there. Ordinarily, I wouldn't think of safety as a priority need if you like Tyke and you have Winfield. So I don't think about that. Corner, again, if we've spent half the spring talking about trading away Jamel Dean, then maybe corner's a priority. But I mean, can you get a corner in the second round? Can you get Darian Porter in the second round? All the corners they've gotten that are good in terms of Carlton and Jamel in recent years, Zion's a fifth rounder. None of those were first round picks. Right. Last time they put a high draft pick into a corner, it's Vernon Hargreaves, and they missed. So I don't think they need to burn a first round pick on corner, but I think you could take a second or a third round there and definitely address the position. If they had their druthers, I still see linebacker, and knowing that, again, Levante, if he has one more good year in him, is a great thing. You have to plan for life after him. And he's the one that leaves the biggest hole a year from now. If you just ignore 25 and think about where are the needs and the priorities to address for 26, that has to be top of the list probably. Maybe corners right there, because if Jamel's hurt or if he's ineffective, he's gone, and now you don't really have a second corner besides Zion, and you're going to be paying Zion at that point. But linebacker and corner, I would say, are the two positions that have obvious urgency to them.
Where do you fall on Servacio Dennis? Because I know when he's healthy, what he can bring to the table, and I know how highly they view them. But I'm listening. I remember back last year and some of the conversations with Servacio, and it's like, this is something that he's dealt with, and I don't have much faith that he's going to be healthy, Greg. Like I everybody keeps saying it, and I don't want to hear any of the words, man. I got to be able to see the guy out there. Right. How confident are you that the guy's going to play 15 games next year?
Yeah, it's hard, and I mean, he's had 2 years very limited by injuries, But at the same time, it's one of those where if you go back to September of last year, if you go back to the Detroit game, he was playing like his hair was on fire, making plays. The speed was there. I think if he had been healthy, He's becomes a 75% of the snaps inside linebacker, and you have Britt coming in obvious running situations, maybe third and ones, but I think Dennis would have been their guy if he'd stayed healthy and playing like he was. But like you said, I don't know what kind of confidence you can have because you're at a position where you putting your shoulder into guys 10 times a game and you have a shoulder problem. So that's a medical decision. And sometimes it's like we always talk about the medical questions and the flags, and Will Johnson has medical flags. You have your own medical flags, and you've had 2 years of knowing how a guy plays, practices, recovers, heals, and you still don't know what you have. So, yeah, part of that, I think what they've done to have Dennis, to have Anthony Walker now with Levante David is given them other options. They could go and line up today, and it'd probably be like last year where you had a Brit in there as a second linebacker. I think they want to be better there, and I think they need to be better a year from now when David probably is hanging it up.
I know that Yaya Diaby and Kalijah Kancey spoke the other day over at the Advent Health and One Buck on Your Place over there. And I know Kalijah was like, oh, yeah, I want to lead this and sacks and blah, blah, blah. I look at both of those guys and they go, listen, they're good players. I think you like what they – but I still think the ceiling is yet to be reached with either one of those guys. Oh, sure. What is your take on their play so far? And where do you think that they're going to end up – like, how do you think they're going to end up faring this year? Because I look at Kalijah in particular, like, dude, you got to stay healthy, man. That's the thing. Like, you got to stay on the field. And you could say all you want, but – one of the lasting impressions we have is him not being able to corral Jaden Daniels and those guys being part of a defense that didn't have the Washington Commanders punt. So as much as I love the confidence, Greg, I don't want to hear much from neither one of those young guys. Like you first round pick, and Yaya was the guy that they're ready to turn the reins over there on the outside opposite Hassan Reddick. What's your take on those two dudes?
Yeah, it was funny. Somebody asked Kalijah in the presser. They pointed out they're like next gen stats. Said that he didn't miss a tackle all season in 2024. And Kalijah was like, yeah, I don't know about that. And he pointed to a play in the Raiders game where he missed it. And he's like, thank you, next gen stats. But no, I didn't go all year with that missed tackle. And the playoffs, that was definitely one. Again, amazingly quick and athletic pass rusher for who he is. Jaden Daniels can make a lot of quick guys look slow. And he did on that play. So like Kancey, the way it was framed to him in the presser was, Kalijah, if you were healthy all 17 games, what could you do, right? And he's like, I think you're looking at the sack leader, to where we were like, oh, of the team? Like, oh, maybe beat out your buddy Diaby and get it, 11 sacks might do that. And he's like, no, of the league. So, again, really confident guy. But like you said, it's the same story with Dennis in that he has to get healthy. And has to be healthy early in the year, because this is twice in 2 years he's missed a big chunk early, and it set him back. I think what you saw is that when you have Vea and Kancey healthy together, okay, it makes life a lot easier for the outside guys. It makes easier for the linebackers to get clean, paths to where they need to go. I think having those two healthy is a much. It creates a different defense. It gives them more options on the back end in terms of how complex they want to make things back there. But they need him healthy. So, yeah, that's the thing. If he's healthy, if it's 16 or 17 games, yeah, he should be a double-digit sack guy. I mean, you see those glimpses and those flashes of what he can do as an interior pass rusher that not many guys have. And it makes me wonder, if you look at that and you talk about Kancey having injury history, I wonder if we shouldn't be talking about D tackle more at the top of this draft, because we really don't. It's not a position that really comes up at all. Eagles just won a championship, definitely overstacking a D tackle and having 3 guys that are all starter caliber that you can rotate in, have fresh legs on the inside. If you were the Bucs right now, I guess Logan Hall would probably be your 3rd D tackle right now, and that's not above average. That's not confusing anybody with Milton Williams. So I wonder if, and Logan only has a year left in his rookie deal, I wonder if D tackle is a position that we haven't talked about at all that could easily be one of their top 3 picks this weekend.
Even in the first round?
First round defensive tackles are all over the board, okay?
Yeah.
In that Walter Nolan's a guy you'll see mocked at 11 and you'll see not in the first round at all. you'll see other guys that have stepped in that are now showing up in the teams in mock drafts that aren't in most first rounds. So I think that's a much more nuanced individual, how this guy fits into what you want to do up front. And if you're the Bucs have two very different defensive tackles in body type and how they're used, and they play really well together. So I don't know if they look at them and wonder about what's a third combination of two we can put inside. When they're in base defense, you got three in there sometimes inside. So I mean, it would make sense to me as a position they would want to upgrade, just because D tackle is a position where the last 2 years they just keep bringing everybody back. So the fact that they haven't brought Golston back, for instance, once you get past those top three, there's an opening there where you could take a young guy and bring him in. That's a position where you want to reset that clock and keep yourself young. I don't think of Vita Vea as a guy that's near the end at all, but from an age standpoint, you should think about a guy on his rookie contract might not have Vea on this team when he finishes his rookie contract. That's something you have to think about. So I'm intrigued. That's a position I feel like of all the people that talk about mock drafts in the Bucs and what they might do and what they should do, D tackle is probably the position we've talked about the least that could show up second, third round, would not surprise me at all.
What about the wide receiver spot? I know Peter Schrager just put out his mock draft, first one with him and ESPN, and he's got the Bucs going wide receiver at 19 with Ted McMillan. I've said many times here on the podcast that I think that would be a huge mistake for the Buccaneers. I understand the injury concerns. Trust me, I've been at the games, but when you have as many holes to fill defensively, you just mentioned 4 defensive spots right there that need to be filled. I just don't know if that makes a lot of sense. What do you make of a wide receiver being a position that's mocked to the Bucs at 19?
Yeah, I mean, only in the context of an elite receiver like a Ted McMillan falling to 19, and I don't think he will. I mean, you'll see mocks where the Jags take McMillan at 5. There's lots of mocks where 8 or 9, Carolina or the Saints take him there. So if he were to fall all the way at 19, it presents an interesting. I'm sure the Bucs are ready for this and have mocked this out themselves a lot. But like you said, they would do well to put 3 of their top 4 picks on defense. If you took McMillan, you're leaving a hole in your defense. You're leaving I would say an average spot by choice somewhere on your defense. And maybe that means that they like the idea of winning games 35-31 instead of 24-21, higher pace games. It lets them guard against Mike and Chris getting injured, which are things that have happened now a couple of years in a row. But if you're worried about Mike being old, you got to know that Levante David is 3-4 years older than he is. Okay? Right. So his durability is not something that should be taken for granted. And again, it would feel like it's almost like taking another receiver named McMillan. Like there's nothing more luxury than adding to a position where you already have a pretty good young guy with that name. I just think it would be at the expense of what seem like more obvious and crucial needs on defense. But again, if you think Ted McMillan is the next incarnation of Mike Evans, if you can have him learn for a year or two with Mike, maybe 10 years from now we're laughing and wondering how they didn't, how we weren't all talking about them taking a receiver. He's probably a receiver 4 when he comes onto this team initially. So that's a guy that's not even on the field. Now we talk about displacing young talent. You got 7 touchdowns out of Jalen McMillan last year. And you're probably taking his snaps in half if you draft a first-round receiver.
That's why just as much as he may be a great receiver, don't get me wrong, he's coming in at the very best as wide receiver 3. And I just don't think that makes much sense for a team that has holes on defense when you can go get a guy and you can plug him in and he can start right away. Before I let you go, Greg, let everybody know what you got on foxsports.com. I know you just wrote a story on trading up in the draft. And what's kind of your mode of operation here over the next 48 hours or so?
Yeah, it's a little different in that we're kind of looking at the whole league. So I'm not as worried about what the Bucs do. I'll be at one Buck all 3 days. I'll be writing and tweeting about what they do. But no, we're looking at all over the league. Wrote a lot about trading up, looked at the last 5 drafts and kind of the 28 trades that have been made within the first round. And just some cool things that came with that. I don't think people realize that receiver is the position they trade up for twice as often as any other position in the last 5 years. looked at the success of the teams that trade up versus the teams that trade down, and it's like 28 trades. The guys they trade up for, only 4 of them have made a Pro Bowl in the last 5 years. Which the cool thing is that nobody's done it better than the Bucs and Tristan Wirfs. So Tristan Wirfs has 4 Pro Bowls. The other 27 people that people have traded up in the first round for the last 5 years have 3. So he has more than all the rest of them combined. If we didn't need to appreciate Tristan Wirfs as the draft steal and the gem that he is, that produced that for me. So just get ready for the draft. I'm curious to see how it falls. I really don't. This is a draft where I think teams have done a pretty good job of keeping it close to the vest, and even the spots that everybody seems to know, and Colts taking a tight end and these kind of things where everybody's mock has the same thing. I'm hoping there'll be some surprises and some wrinkles, and a Tyreek Hill trade, or a team trading up for Genti or something. It's always cool if you get a couple just absolute haymakers that are big headlines and change the way you look at teams and the way things go, more than just this pick and this pick and this pick.
I love it, man. Yeah, I want chaos. I want chaos
Absolute
every single night on NFL Draft. At Greg Auman, check him out, Twitter/X on foxsports.com as well. Greg, you're the man. I appreciate it, buddy. Enjoy the draft. Talk again soon.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Thanks, pal. The one and only Greg Auman. He is the best. All right. I hate to do this, guys, but I can't do this. I got to go. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I feel like absolute dog crap. And so we're going to try to move everybody to Friday, but I'm hanging on by a thread right now. I feel like absolute dog shit. My knee hurts. I'm starting to feel a little nauseous. And I said what I had to say for the Lightning. Greg joined in for the Buccaneers talk. Take care of your health, everybody. I got to do a better job at doing that, but my knee is swollen and I feel sick as hell. So I love you all. Thank you. Trying to be at Emily tomorrow, but I don't know. I got to head out to urgent care or the emergency room or something because I feel like shit. I love you all. Thank you for the support. We'll see you next time right here on the Jay Recher podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe.